Where do they sit? What has to happen for them? They're such a big club, such an important club, and they still have a roster that looks good.
Yeah, well, some big lessons this year. Some hard lessons.
Yep.
There'll be a review of everything. Every club goes through that, unless you win the premiership. Penrith haven't had to do a review for a while, so they're going good. But yeah, there's no doubt they'd be disappointed. Like they would have expected to hopefully go one better than they did last year, and that was within 5 minutes of winning a competition. So, listen, I think because it's Brisbane, it's such a big, powerful club. It's always heightened the pressure and the criticism, and they need to go away and address the issues. They just lacked a connection as a team. That they weren't the team that we saw last year. You found it at different periods. I know they've struggled with injuries, and obviously the origin period always affects them, but they were just nowhere near connected as that team as last year. And instead of going out there and doing things together, they found themselves in games looking to win it on the back of their individual brilliance and the back of their talent, and that might win you some games in this NRL, particularly with the roster that they have, but it won't consistently win you competition points week in, week out when you need everyone playing the best. You look at the Bulldogs, you stack that roster up against the Broncos roster, and by far the Broncos is much more star-studded. But the thing with the Bulldogs is they're all on the same page, they're connected, they're doing the same things, and they're getting after the performances together. And I think because of, again, Broncos being the Broncos, the pressure and criticism may be a little bit unfair on Kevvie after last year and how far they've fallen. But if he can turn it around early next year, if they start off to a flyer next year, I think all things will be forgiven and all systems go again. But boy, if they're in a hole, inside the first 2 months of next year, 6 weeks in, 7 weeks in, and they're still playing this type of footy and not getting the results. Trouble. Again, that noise just grows and grows and grows, and the pressure builds on everyone in that position, but even more so on them because it's the Brisbane Broncos.
Look, I don't think it was a fluke that they made the grand final last year. I think they played some really good footy. Yeah. A lot of their players had breakout years. But, Wado can tell you, when you're at the top, everyone's up for you every week. It's about being consistent with your performance, and that's why the Penrith side's so good and one of the best teams you've ever seen, because they've been at the top of the lot for a long period of time, and teams that you very rarely see teams have a bad game against Penrith. They're always up. For me, I think, look, Kevvie's copping a lot of criticism. It's their salary cap. They've had the players have wanted more money, and it's the players they've lost. Like they've lost, Kurt Capewell, who's a seasoned first grader. Look, he might not be one of those blokes that comes up with the flashy plays on the highlights reels, but he just does the kick chase, the kick pressures, just the little 1% efforts that you don't see. Thomas Flegler. Yep. His aggression in defence was huge for the Brisbane Broncos last year. Like Payne Haas carries the ball for 200+ metres a game, but he's just one of those guys that just line speed goes up with the line. Flegler's one of those guys you've got to keep an eye on. He goes after teams, and then Herbie Farnworth. Like you've seen what he's done for the Dolphins this season, and he's playing with a busted shoulder there as well. So, look, I really think the players they had to leave go. Well, they sort of had to because they couldn't afford what they were on the salary cap. I think that's really hurt the Broncos. And then other players have had to step up. And it's about keeping the level-headed for the players that are there already. Like Reece Walsh, like one of the great players of our game, but he's such a superstar. And I don't think he understood what come with it all. The fanfare. You hear a lot of people about they go to a Brisbane Broncos training session. It's like going to a concert, and be able to back up from that. It must wear you down, being on 24/7, but that's part of the job. You're such a superstar. You've got to be able to handle it.
I was going to say the other side of that, Woodsy, is the responsibility to get those guys in the right frame of mind to play, and to stop that getting out of control. It falls on the coach. That stuff always falls. It's much easier to get rid of a coach than to clear out a dressing room. And we all like Kevvie, great bloke, but they've missed the finals 3 of the 4 years he's been in charge, and that's not good enough when you're at the Brisbane Broncos.
Do you reckon you should go?
Siebes missed him once. And he was gone, and now we won the spoon, admittedly. But
it's sort of a similar trajectory as Brad Arthur, isn't it?
So I think next year's huge for Kevvie. I don't think you can underestimate how significant it is. The opening 8, 10, 12 weeks is for Kevvie and the Broncos. If they can't get it right next year, then I think they'll move on. I don't think they've really got a choice because, to only make the finals once in 4 years with that squad, and they had some injuries this year. Payne missed time, Adam Reynolds missed time, Reece missed time. But that squad's still good enough to be contending for the top 8 and to be mixing with the best teams. And that was embarrassing the other night. That performance against Melbourne,
Do you reckon they gave
that was
up?
an embarrassment.
Well, but again, you need
At
to look
Suncorp.
at it. Yeah, I know it's Suncorp. Craig Bellamy has a
Melbourne's
great record
records,
at Suncorp anyway, but it was a bad time to get the Storm. They
Oh,
just
I know
rested
that.
all their players, their prime, and you could just imagine where Craig Bellamy had them prepared. This is a semi-final audition, and they were relentless, particularly at the start of the game. They started fast. Jerome Hughes had the Broncos coming out of that left-hand corner for the first 10 minutes. There's a lot of ball in play, and then a couple of special players. Farlongo, his start to the game, he ran for something like 130 metres in his first 5 carries. Just so dangerous out of the backfield. And Warbrick.
Yeah.
Warbrick was fantastic at the start. Found 2 early tries. So you go down 12-0 to a Melbourne Storm who's prepping for a semi-final series, and then Jerome Hughes takes over. Like that, it was a very bad time to
There's
get the
still
Melbourne
no
Storm.
excuse for
No
that.
excuse.
No
I'm not saying
excuse
no
that way,
excuse,
though.
but I can see why. After they run in 3-4 tries, you're standing behind the post, mate. They would have been looking at the clock going, make this season end.
But you look at them, how they're standing behind the post waiter. They're not a team.
No, they're
all
staring at
just
the
separated,
stadium.
and
Yeah.
they weren't even looking at each other. Like no one was talking.
It's hard. You know, I've been
Oh,
there.
mate,
You know,
shocking.
there. Like you get this deep, and things just haven't been working for you. You know, and just because you're not going well, it doesn't mean you're not working hard at
Yeah.
training. Like
Sometimes you're working harder.
Yeah, we're working harder because you're searching for more, and you get to this stage of the year. It's the last round. They had an awful week in the press. You
Even
get
the
out
week
there, the
before.
Storm go 18-0 up on you, and you just go. You could see them looking into the
Where are we
stadium.
at?
They were just waiting for that clock to count down. And I agree, with Reedy. I think the pressure is there, but if they get to round 6 or round 7 next year, and they're going the same as they're going now, it's gonna get really loud.
Oh,
up in
yeah.
there.
Such big clubs like that. I mean, the pressure is on, and you can see it in Kevvie's face in these past few weeks, can't you? I mean, the whole going down I will make finals a couple of weeks ago, and then even last week as he left the press, we may still make finals, when it was never going to happen. But that is pressure writ large right there.
And you could see he snapped it. We
Yeah.
mentioned it earlier. He snapped at Travie Main in the
Yep.
press conference. Travie asked a completely legitimate question, and Kevvie got a bit riled up at him on it. And it's I can't imagine what it's like for a coach when you're under the sort of microscope he is at the moment, because the boys. It's such a big club, and the media up there. There's 3 teams in Southeast Queensland, but there's only one that sells papers,
Yep.
right, at the moment. That's the Broncos. So when they're going bad, good, bad, indifferent, they are the focus. And when they go as bad as have in recent weeks, the blowtorch, Pete Bedell and Travie Main and the journos up there, Dobbo, it's intense. The pressure's intense. And, it's got to be a strong and Wayne was able to control it for so long just because he's so good at controlling the media. And that's something Kevvie, I think, hasn't maybe got his head around, and it's hard. It's hard for a young coach. You don't. Sometimes when you're under pressure, when you're copping criticism, you don't want to deal with the media.
Yeah.
But if you don't, it's different in Sydney. There's 9 clubs. We'll just move somewhere else. But in Brisbane, I know there's a few clubs up there, but as I said, there's one that really matters, and all the focus is on them.